Hello everyone and welcome back to HTML and CSS lessons on Codecademy. So today we're going to be learning about how to style font in HTML. So let's get started. We have covered a lot about lists, so that's what we did in the last lesson, and if you missed that, make sure to check it out. But what we're doing today doesn't depend that much on that, so you can watch this without watching that, so don't worry. Let's change gears and do some styling. If you recall, HTML is the skeleton of the web page, and CSS lets you give the skeleton some skin and makeup. But it is possible to do some inline CSS. This simply means we can do some styling in our HTML file without worrying about a separate CSS file. We'll learn this first because it will make learning CSS a lot easier later on. So as you remember, CSS is a bit more, I guess, advanced you could call it, but it's not really advanced. It just allows you to do more things, or things more easily, to make them look better. HTML is just the basic thing, and then CSS is to add on to that to make it look better, as I said. So before we dive into fonts, it's important to learn about making comments. You can include little notes in your HTML code that the browser won't display, but it will be in the code to help you remember why you did certain things. So if you've done programming before, you will know that comments can be very useful sometimes. If you haven't, then I will tell you that comments can be useful some of the time, so that sometimes you can just look at some code and you go, why did I do that? But then if you have a comment next to it, you will know why you did that. So comments start with that and end with that kind of thing. So what we need to do then is make the text on line 1 into a comment. Leave the text on line 3 alone. So we need to leave that alone and make line 1 into a comment. Easy to do. I will just do it straight away. And I already made a mistake. There we go. I don't know if you have to have a space there, let's see. So you don't have to have a space there, but you should leave a space just to make it more readable, or readable, whatever it is. I think, I have no idea why the M just disappeared there, but oh well. There we go, save and submit, and let's move on. Font size. Recall that the paragraph tags are opening and closing tags. We can give, well, recall that that's the opening and that's the closing. We can give tags more instructions by including attributes in the opening tag. So an attribute is simply a characteristic or some description for the content in the element. You saw this with src in img and href in A. Just a reminder, img is to insert an image, quite self-explanatory, and href is to insert a hyperlink. Let's change the size of the text. Well, how? We use the style attribute. We make it equal to font size, followed by a colon, the size you want, and end it with px, short for pixels. So for example, you have, normally you wouldn't have this part here. You would just have the opening bracket, the p, and then the closing bracket. But if you want to change the size, then you will have the style equals whatever you want to change. In this case, because we want to change the font, we do font size, colon, and then 12px. Note that this is in between two quotation marks. If you don't do it between two notation marks, then you will probably get an error, or just nothing will happen, which is usually the case with HTML. On line 7 then, make the text size 10 pixels. Line 7, here we go. So now this is CSS, I believe, because we're using style equals. I think that you can leave spaces there, but I think that you shouldn't normally. I'm not too sure about that one, so I will just stick to not leaving any spaces there. And we need to make that 10 pixels. And just to save on time now, I will copy and paste this over to the other lines. Line 8, 20 pixels. And line 9, 40 pixels, so double. Save and submit. And there we go. So you can also use headings for non-specified pixel size, but you can also do this. I don't know how, if you could make a heading a certain number of pixels. I guess we can actually test that now. Why not? H1, paste that, and let's make that something really small so that we can see if there's a change. And this is a test for heading 1, and let's close that. And yes, you can change the size of a heading. If we remove that, that is going to become a heading. But if you have the heading there, it's not going to be, it's going to be small, so 5 pixels. And that's 5 pixels apparently, which is tiny. I will just remove that now, and save and submit, and let's move on. Font color. What is awesome about the style attribute is that we can use it a lot, and we can use it with many different tags, not just with the paragraph. So as I showed an example of before, you can also use it with headings, and I believe that you can even use it with lists. Let's now change the colors of our text in the heading. So it's a pretty similar, the step is pretty similar to what we did to change the size, but instead of font size, you do font color, or just color actually, from what I can see here. To change the color of text, simply add the style attribute in the opening tag, then make the style equal to color blue, or whatever color you like. I think that you can also use hexadecimal there, but I'm not too sure. So for example, you can do something like this. What if you want to change the color and the size at the same time of the same text? Simple, just add a semicolon between each bit. So first you can change the color, then you change the size. You can do it either way around, so you could change the size first and then the color. The text that you're editing is going to have the exact same thing. A full list of available colors can be found here. You guys can check that out for yourselves. I'm not going to go there now. So note, do not type something like this. Let's see. I don't actually know what's the difference. Oh, okay, so it's telling us don't do 2 opening tags to do this, because that's not going to work. If you incorrectly nest your HTML tags like that, your code will not pass, meaning it's probably not going to work. So you have to, if you're opening a tag, you have to close the bracket there. You can't just leave it open and open another tag. It just doesn't work. So then what we need to do is change the heading color to green and its size to 16 pixels. Heading, here we go. We can easily use what we have on our clipboard. And size 16, not 60, 16. There we go. Semicolon, and then color. Note it's not spelled with a U. We want to change it to green. There we go. 7. Oops. Okay, well, we see the effect of that. Let's see if we can do hexadecimal. So red, green, blue. Yes, you can also do hexadecimal. That green is slightly different, I believe, though, to this green. Yes, this green is slightly darker, but depends on what you really want. So if you want a specific color, then you should use hexadecimal. If you want a color that's common, then you should use words. And I do know that green for different screens shows up differently for some reason. I don't completely know why. I am just going to leave it at that. So change the color of the first paragraph to violet. Okay. We don't need to change the size, so we just change the color and to violet. There we go. Let's now change to violet. And then step 3, change the color of the second paragraph to red and its font size to 10 pixels. I'll just copy that over. font size 10, color red. So let's just prove that you can do this either way around. I will do that. It doesn't make any difference at all. Save and submit code, and there we go. So let's move on. Font family. I don't really know what this is, but let's check it out. Oh, it's okay. I see what it is right now. We've covered font colors and font sizes, but we want more power. We want to decide what font type to use. We can do this using font family, like this. So now instead of using color or size, we use font family. And you can say Arial, you can say Calibri. I don't remember any other fonts, so yeah. First we wrote H1 big title. Then inside the opening tag, H1, we added a style attribute and set it equal to font family Arial. Arial, I don't really know. This styles the H1 tag with the Arial font. We can do the same for other tags, so we could have LI, which is for a list, and you can do that. Here's a list of available fonts. Well, I'm not going to do that, because if you want a certain font, then you will know what you want. Change the font size of the first listed item to 16 pixels and the font to Arial. So here, oops, I did not mean to do that. Style equals everything we want. So we want to change the font family to Arial. I don't know how much capitalization counts, but I would just use it like it's specified here. Then we want to change the size, so that's font size to 16 pixels. This item is big Arial, and I do believe that I managed to change that. Good. I will just copy that over and use it for the other tags. Change the font size of the second listed item to 12 pixels and the font to Verdana. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sorry if I'm not. Size 12. There we go. Change the font size to the third listed item to 10 pixels and the font to Impact. Impact is usually used for big things, but okay. Impact. There we go. As you can see, we get what we wanted. Save and submit code, and that is correct. Make sure to capitalize the first letter of Arial, Verdana, and Impact is as shown. So you do have to capitalize them correctly. Otherwise, I'm guessing you're not going to get anything, or maybe you are. I guess it might also depend on the browser, because sometimes they kind of guess what your HTML means, and they can do that correctly sometimes. So let's move on. Recap. So awesome job, you've now got control of your web page, including the color, size, and type of your font. To recap, we use the style attribute in the opening tag like so. So you have font size, for example 14 pixels, color, for example orange, and font family, for example Bodoni. As I said, sorry if I'm not pronouncing these correctly. It's important to know that you can use the style attribute for paragraphs, headings, and even links, and lists, and many other things. I think that you can even change all of these things in the body tag, and it's going to change it for the whole text in the body. I'm not too sure though. I can test it though. So let's do this, and yes, it does actually change it. You can't just change it in the body, and it's going to last throughout the whole of the body, unless changed again. For the paragraph on line 7, make the font have, so here, I will just copy and paste that for now, a size of 20 pixels, edit that, a color of blue, okay, blue, there we go, a font family of Arial, and that should be correct, there we go. So that's today's lesson. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask. In the next lesson we will be doing some other types of styling, so I think it's going to be something like background color and stuff. But until next lesson, if you enjoyed this video, then please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I do make programming videos. Currently I'm making HTML and CSS. So until next time, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.